Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, we just had the information drop about the new champions for October that are going to be involved in both the Fusion and kind of general release. So I'm not on the test server. I didn't get the upfront info today. I'm playing catch up, but we will get these onto the website as soon as we can. So here we go. October champions. We've got 4 new champions in the mix. New October champions will soon enter the world of Teleria, ready to fight the rivals and impress you with their skills. Let's hope they do. Get your weapons ready. So this is Maralex. This is the one we already know about. It's going to be the actual Fusion champion. From what I'm seeing so far from some of the other guys on the test server, she does smack. She is a hard-hitting Hex-style champion. We do have some in the game already. They're quite hard to play with. Hex seems to be a debuff which is quite difficult to get away. But with more and more Hex champions coming into the mix, they're only going to grow in value over time. And with Hex having that kind of splash damage effect now, it is good. If you've already got top tier nukers, then this might not be like the must get type of fusion, I'll be honest here. Especially as it's an old school fusion, they're generally harder to do. On my main account, I will go for this champion because I think eventually Hex champions will come into the forefront. Ruel was already an absolute beast. I think Maralex is going to be up there in that type of crazy damage camp. Obviously, we all pick up a Mithril eventually from Hydra. So Hex champions are a thing. But I do understand if some people decide to dodge it. Yeah, if you're a bit burnt out from fusions and stuff, I get it. But basically what's going on with her, she's got high damage, multiple hit A1. It's going to be a crazy one. We've got an AoE nuke plus placing Hex and drop defense on the A2, which looks solid. And in the A3, has got this kind of like reset mechanic along with the passive here. Basically, it's a full nuke. Will ignore unkillable, will ignore shields as long as Hex is out there. So Hex has got to be out there for this to be like the big shebang. But if it is, then it's going to do a lot of work. And as I say, it gets a reset if you kill people that are under Hex. This comes back. So you can just continuously like A3 as long as Hex remains out there, which is pretty nuts. So I think she's a good champion. I think she's going to be a really hard nuker. But we do have a lot of high damage dealers in the game, so it's not like you absolutely have to go after this fusion. It's going to completely change the way you play Raid. But for a lot of people, who doesn't want the absolute smack in their team? So let's have a look at the other champions then. This is new for me. This is not all fusion champions. These are just like other ones that are being added. Fortus, defense-based champion, legendary from Night Revs. Void, legendary. So bringing in a new Void legendary. Sometimes these are a bit hit and miss, honestly, but we'll see. So what we've got here, an A1, Taste of Oblivion. Attacks one enemy. Books up to, 50% chance of placing a fear. This attack will always be a crit if the target is under fear. If that is a common theme, then that could be pretty juicy. A2, attacks all enemies. 80%, books up to 100% chance of placing true fear. This cannot be resisted by targets under fear. So if they're under fear, you could place a true fear instead. True fear and fear, for those who don't know, like fear and true fear, they've both got a 50-50 chance of proccing. Fear, if someone tries to do an ability, they just skip their go, basically. They don't do the ability, they skip their go. True fear, they try and do that ability. If it goes off on that 50-50, then that ability is put on cooldown. So true fear is like massively more important than fear, and it actually stops people doing abilities that they would want to do in fear of them going on full cooldown. So it is actually a pretty nasty debuff. For it to not be resisted here is interesting, depending on what else this kind of kit does. Astral Terrors, attacks all enemies, ignores 30% of each target's defense if they're under fear or true fear. If this hits hard, then that's going to be pretty damn juicy there. This attack is always a crit against targets under fear or true fear. That is, if this hits hard again, that's like crazy. You don't need any crit rate in this build for A1 or A3. Damn. The damage of this skill increases by 10% every time a fear or true fear is placed on an enemy. This skill has a 40% chance to be unlocked for 1 turn whenever a fear or true fear. So is this a lock skill? I take it. I think this is a lock skill. This skill has 40% chance of being unlocked for 1 turn whenever a fear or true fear debuff is placed. So it's got to be down to this passive then to get these fears out there. Because currently, no resistance, no accuracy required. No accuracy required to the second part of this. But I think you do need accuracy so far for this A1 fear. And honestly, you either want to be able to build with accuracy or not. You either want to build with crit rate or not. So let's see what this passive does. Passive effect increases the chance of enemy skills failing by 15% if they're under fear. So it goes from a 50 to a 65%. Wow, that's nasty. Active effect prevents this champion's death and keeps them alive on 1 HP when hit by a fatal hit. Same as like a Leo, I guess. Although it doesn't say places an unkillable buff. Then removes all buffs and debuffs from this champion after preventing this champion's death. Fully heals them and fully depletes their turn meter. So it's different from a Leo. Gonna die. Instead of dying, gets a full health. I guess that's like a Tomoe passive, but without the freeze on him. Yeah? But I think that's what that kind of passive feels like or looks like to me. Then has an 80% chance of placing a fear on all enemies for a turn. Finally, places a sleep on this champion. Yeah, okay. So the sleep is the equivalent of the freeze that Tomoe gets. So pretty much, if he's about to die, he tries to fear all enemies, 80% chance, and then the rest of his kit comes to life. It's a weird kit. Incredibly interesting kit. Yeah, if you need accuracy for that part of the kit on the passive there, then the whole kind of, you do not, the irresistible part of the buffs and stuff isn't as interesting because you still need accuracy for different parts of the kit. But I do love this will always crit type of stuff if something else is going on. It's a really interesting skill set, honestly. I would love to play around with this champion. Really, really weird champion, but looks pretty cool. Okay, Tomoe. I'm guessing this, let's see how many epics we've got here. We've got 1 rare, 1 epic. I'm guessing for the fusion, you're going to have to fuse 16 copies of Prosecutor into 4 copies of Tomoe to then get your fusion. I think that's the way it's going to roll. So you've got Force Affinity. So it means that you need a ton of Force pots and you need a bunch of Spirit pots. The smaller version Spirit pots for leveling up the rares, and then the big version Force pots for Tomoe. Attacks 1 enemy. 30% chance of stealing 1 random buff from the target. Goes up to 50. Not too bad. AoE A2. Books up to 100% chance of placing decreased attack on an enemy. So 100% decreased attack. It's not bad as well. And then the A3 places counterattack on an ally for 2 turns. Places counterattack for 3 turns instead if it's Shadowkin. Then fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and gives them crit damage buff. Also places crit rate buff on allies from the Shadowkin faction. So it feels like they've built someone out here as a faction war champion. Yeah, it's an okay skill set. It's okay. What's his passive? Increases all turn meter fill effects and heals by 20% when used on allies from Shadowkin faction. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one would do it. So can't have like 2 of these going. And Shadow Crypts, faction Crypts, sorry, for Shadowkin. This is like an all-in faction wars champion. If you got a lot, or like Shadowkin teams, but I don't suppose there's too many like full Shadowkin teams going out there. I guess you could build a Shadowkin team for, Hydra or something like that. But you got turn meter fill, you got good buffs. I guess you could do a full arena team Shadowkin maybe. I don't know. I feel like you'd just be missing pieces of, the puzzle when you're trying to do that type of stuff. So just feels like it's a faction war style champion. Therefore, the value is kind of reduced a bit. But there is some interesting mechanics going on here. So not a bad epic, but probably not like a must-get epic for your account, I would say. And then we've got the rare then, the High Elf, Spirit Affinity, attack-based, double hitter A1, each hit, 20% chance of decreasing turn meter by 10%. I mean, that's actually not bad. That's not a bad turn meter drop, honestly. 20%, books up to 30% chance. I don't know. Maybe it's not brilliant, actually. It's not brilliant. No. I was thinking, are we getting close to Armager level? We're nowhere near Armager level. Okay. A2 attacks all enemies. 50% boosts up to 75% chance of putting out a decreased speed. And then the A3 triple hitter. 50% places 50% increased accuracy first before he attacks, and then what's this, like a 45% chance of placing heal reduction? Don't know. Pretty trashy rare. Pretty trashy rare, I think. Unless, I mean, decreased speed AoE is actually pretty solid in a lot of content, especially for Hydra. But the rest of his kit doesn't suit Hydra, and yeah, just feels like a pretty bang average champion. I guess you've got heal reduction, you've got decreased speed, you've got turn meter, double hitter on an A1, triple hitter on the A3. Finite champion potentially for a rare, but not going to be the craziest rare in the game. So, okay rare, okay epic, very faction war kind of driven, pretty damn sexy looking Void legendary, but would need to play with him to find out, how crazy his hits are. And then we've spoken about this one already, Maralex. Decent champion, but again, it's a nuker. Do you need a nuker or not? That's kind of where you want to focus your energy. Whew, I've been Hell Hades. I'll catch you later.